Alongside Ryan Rashog, Shogger, the last time we saw the Oilers in a game that really mattered, they were devastated following the Game 7 loss in the Stanley Cup Final to the Florida Panthers. Tonight's a big night. The Western Conference banner raising. They open up the regular season at home against the Winnipeg Jets. And clearly, Connor McDavid is sick and tired about talking about last year's Game 7 loss. Is it safe to say he's done with that and wants to move on now?
Well, and it's not just about the loss, Gino. Like, this Amazon series, this was a huge thing. And you can imagine in McDavid's world, he's known it was dropping for, a couple of months now, and then it drops. And at a time and place when their mindset is to try and push past that, get themselves ready mentally to focus on this year, this massive thing drops. And I'm sure he's getting texts and talking to people and friends and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, listen, it was the first chance we had to talk to him yesterday since the series dropped. So, of course, we're going to ask him about it. But to your point, he was just like, hey, enough about last year. Let's push this forward. Let's move on. Very eager to push past that, and you can understand why. It's a long road, Gino, to get back to where they were before. They know that. And for McDavid, I think it's just about trying to shed that and get focused on a good start, because we all remember what happened last year. And I think with the short summer, not a lot of preparation time, probably some stress at the idea that another start like that would be pretty difficult. So he wants everybody to just move on. But it's not that easy for the fans out there who saw that thing and went, whoa, everyone wants to talk about it.
I'm kind of moving on here right now, but first I want to quote him at the end of Game 7. We all remember what he said, and I'm quoting now. It's the expletive worst feeling in the world. But I know we're going to be back here, boys. I know it in my expletive heart. So that's what McDavid had to say. Now a lot of the experts are calling them the Stanley Cup favorites going into this year. You actually had a chance to talk to some of the players in the room about the fact that they go into the room as the Cup favorites this year. What they have to say about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Oilers are not new to teams coming into the building and giving them their best, right? They've had the best player in the world for quite a while now, and I think they're pretty used to the idea that when teams roll through here, they're going to take the Oilers seriously. They've faced that, so that's not new. I mean, the Oilers have been a pretty good team for a number of years here. So while, yes, this year, more of us and the prognosticators are picking the Oilers to get back to the Stanley Cup final, if not win it, what we heard from the players was that it's kind of not new for them, right? And we've talked to them a few different ones over the last couple of days. They get teams best already, just strictly by the fact that they've got two of the best players in the world. So I think it's good for this group. They need to be on their toes. They desperately want to start better than they did last year, Gino, because it just created so much unnecessary turmoil by coming out of the gate the way they did. And it was a ruckus for the first month and a half there. And I think they want to be steadier this year, because I think it took a lot out of them working their way back into it. Maybe it took a toll on them, and when playoffs hit, there was a little more energy burned maybe than some of the other teams. So I think they just want to be steady.
Something else new this year, Leon Draisaitl's line mates. Two new line mates, and Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner. What have you seen from these guys so far? And are we going to see enough from Leon Draisaitl's new line that you can finally keep Draisaitl and McDavid apart full time?
Yeah, so we've seen polar opposite entrances onto this Oiler team. Victor Arvidsson showed up and was all over the place, skating 100 miles an hour, was good in exhibition season, worked his butt off, seemed to really make things click. Now, they only played a couple of games together, he and Draisaitl, but Arvidsson had a really good camp. And you really noticed him. Jeff Skinner was very, 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 very quiet. Didn't see much in the exhibition season. Again, only played a couple of games with Draisaitl. So I would say, listen, it's exhibition. He's a veteran player. We're not going to thump him over the head too hard with the exhibition season, but he's definitely going to have to flip the switch here as the regular season gets going. And just to give you an idea, Gino, the Oilers had 3 days of practice from their last exhibition game. And on the second day of practice, so this would have been 2 days ago. So their first day of practice, Chris Knoblauch actually took Skinner off that line, put him on the third line, and bumped Matthias Janmark up. Then we show up at practice yesterday, and Skinner's back on the second line again. This is a coaching tactic. It's a way to fire a shot across the bow for a player, kind of sending the message that don't get too comfortable. Nothing's written in stone here. Skinner was quiet. Arvidsson was very good. Tonight they'll play their first regular season together. They're all veterans. We're not going to read too much into the preseason, but it'll be interesting to see if that left side in particular with Skinner is one that can click.
Look, I think we can all agree this other team looks really good. They got a real strong shot at making it to the Cup final, but we can also agree that their blue line is kind of weak. The consensus seems to be that's okay. They've got some money under the cap that they can spend to bring in some help down the road. The question, though, Ryan, is are they going to be okay out of the gate with this blue line, or could they fall behind because they've got problems back there?
Yeah, so it depends. Are you a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of guy, Gino, if you're an Oiler fan or a pundit? So I'll give you both, okay? Here's the glass half full, right? The glass half full would be that Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard reached a whole new level last year. They're back together. They're going to play a ton of minutes. Darnell Nurse will take a step forward after some bumps along the way last year, and if he finds his game, that'll be big for the Oilers. Brett Kulak is a very good third-pairing defenseman. Troy Stetcher's been around a while, and Ty Emberson showed some great signs in his 30 games in San Jose, like he's ready to take on more. Right? There's the glass half full. Here's the glass half empty. Bouchard and Ekholm are going to play a ton. The next guys over the boards are Darnell Nurse and Ty Emberson. Nurse came into camp a little bit banged up, so he's starting maybe a little bit behind this year. This is a big year for him. Right? He needs to get his game underneath him. He needs to find that true confidence again, and he's now got a partner that's got 30 games of NHL experience on the second pairing. So Stanley Cup expectations, and the second pairing is Nurse and Emberson. So we'll see. A lot is riding on Ty Emberson and how he handles this responsibility of being a top four defenseman on a team like this. How good Darnell Nurse is out of the gate. And then your third pairing, with Brett Kulak, like I said, pretty solid, but in Troy Stetcher and Travis Dermott, two guys that are kind of in those 6-7 areas. So I would say that there's definitely some risk they're taking here in the early going, not having solidified the blue line in a more meaningful way. But the reward is, Gino, they're going to let it ride for a few months here and keep their roster pared down. They're going to build up a bunch of cap space so that they can go out and find the perfect player for that spot later on. If they can just hold until then. But to your point, if they don't, and this team is bumpy in the early going and defensively it's dicey, that's the risk.
It is a risk. All right, they open up tonight against Connor Hellebuyck and the Winnipeg Jets. There was some doubt that Hellebuyck would play. He is playing. What did you see from him?
Yeah, saw him at practice today. Coach Arniel said that he got some work in yesterday, actually, as well. Full participant in the morning skate today. Stayed out there for quite a while. Was in great spirits in the locker room, and he is good to go here tonight. That's a big, big boost for the Winnipeg Jets, having that goaltender ready to go for Game 1. The Jets so well known for their defensive play, Gino. Well, tonight's the night, right? Connor McDavid and company. They're on the road. They don't have last change. They're going to need their goalie, and Hellebuck's ready to go.
All right, the quest to get back to the Stanley Cup final begins for the Oilers tonight at home against the Winnipeg Jets, where Ryan Rishaug has joined us from Edmonton.